Good morning, radio listeners, Facebook watchers, and people on YouTube. This is the Morning Buzz on 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. It is November 30th, 2020. How are you, Ryan? This is my co-host today, Ryan Trick.
I'm doing pretty good, Amanda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And of course, we have our lovely newscaster,
Jake Getz. Good morning.
and our lovely sportscaster,
Ryan White. Glad to be here and good morning.
Awesome. How was your weekend, Ryan?
Well, my weekend was pretty good. We had a wonderful Thanksgiving over at the Trick family household.
I forgot there was a holiday.
There was a holiday. For all you listeners out there, we did take Thanksgiving and the day after off, but we are back. We're going to hit you with some news and some entertainment stuff. We got a fun show planned for you, but yeah, my weekend was pretty good. My dad and I, for the first time, made our own kind of father-son, got in the kitchen, made our own Thanksgiving meal.
Oh, that's cute.
It was super successful, and we have enough leftovers to feed, like, the entire National Guard and probably some of the Navy.
That's funny. How was your guys' holiday / weekend?
Okay. Yeah, it went fine.
It was fine?
Yeah.
Awesome. Glad to
mine
hear
was
it.
good.
Awesome stuff. Well, now we're on the countdown to Christmas. So
Oh, for sure. All my Christmas music playing.
Christmas face mask for anyone that's watching.
Oh, that's
watching on
great.
Facebook. Yeah, it's lights. It's pretty awesome. Got to get in the Christmas spirit somehow.
For sure.
But
Christmas
before we get into Christmas, we also have, news in the meantime,
yes.
right?
What?
Right? I know.
On
the
a news show?
The news doesn't stop.
Crazy.
Well, Jacob, before we get into the show, you want to hit us with that newscast?
For sure. Here is the news. From the AP, Iran is claiming that Israel launched an attack on their top nuclear scientists remotely using electronic devices. Israel has made no comment on the attack. President-elect Joe Biden visited a Delaware orthopedic specialist yesterday after injuring his ankle whilst playing with his dog, a German Shepherd named Major. According to the New York Times, a CT scan revealed that the former vice president had small fractures in his ankle and will have to wear a boot for a couple weeks to recover. From NJ.com, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy released a statement on Sunday that a statewide shutdown had to stay on the table, though was seen as a last resort. Just this morning, NJ.com also reported that the indoor gathering limit in NJ is now 25, and indoor high school sports events are now prohibited. The weather looks a bit dreary today in Montclair with a pretty high chance of rain just about all day. We're looking at a low of 45 degrees about now, but it should rise to a high of 63 degrees Celsius. That's
awesome.
It for me.
Thank you. Awesome stuff. And let's head over right to our sportscast. Ryan?
Good morning, you guys, and good morning, listeners. What a wild and highly entertaining weekend we just had in sports. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. returned to the ring for an exhibition match on Saturday night. Two of them demonstrated their skills even at an old age and went the distance after 8 rounds. The fight was ruled a draw, but many believe Tyson got the best of Jones. Social media star Jake Paul electrified the internet that night prior to the main event by knocking out former NBA player Nate Robinson cold. It's safe to say Robinson didn't get the right training before the fight. Okay, switching over to the NFL, the New York Giants defeated the Cincinnati Bengals and moved to the top of the NFC East at 4-7. Yes, they are in first place at 4-7. The New York Jets lost once again and are now 0-11. They are getting closer and closer to the first overall draft pick. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were able to outduel Tom Brady and the Bucs by a score of 27-24. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards after the first quarter. Due to the entire quarterback room of the Denver Broncos being exposed to the virus, the Broncos were left with no choice to start a wide receiver at quarterback. These are the types of things NFL teams have to be prepared for in 2020. Last night, the Packers dominated their arch rival, the Chicago Bears, by a score of 41-25. Looking ahead to tonight, the Philadelphia Eagles host the Seattle Seahawks as both teams are looking to move to the top of their divisions. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
So, we got some interesting stuff going on today.
Yeah, a lot of breaking
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
We had like a lot of stuff planned of what we were going to talk about, and then like a lot of stuff. I always say to Ryan that like I I always have to wait till the morning of, because there's always something that happens overnight that's breaking and big. And I think we have something pretty big with this first story. Ryan, you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, definitely. So the first story we have is kind of it's kind of like a double whammy. So just as Jacob said in the newscast earlier, um, the so Governor Murphy, I believe just this morning, announced that the indoor gathering limit in New Jersey outdoor gathering limit in New Jersey
Really?
is, I believe, now reduced to 25 people. 25 in outdoor gatherings. This is like including
Oh, wow.
this is including outdoor dining. This is including, any outdoor gatherings. Not only that, indoor high school sports completely gone at the moment, are now prohibited.
I can't blame him for these decisions of
Yeah.
the limiting the gatherings, because we're noticing, obviously, like, it's these gatherings that are kind of causing it. It's not really as much coming from like going to a grocery store or going to work, as much as there could be outbreaks from that. It's more coming from these small house parties and small outdoor parties that are just more people involved, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And I have noticed that high school sports has been a very big thing happening.
Oh,
And
yeah.
of why
Yeah.
outbreaks are happening in high schools and stuff, because if you go to a high school and stuff, most of the outbreaks aren't coming from like the classroom, because
Mhm.
everybody has those precautions set in place, but it's coming from, I'm gathering either outside of school or I'm doing a contact sport, because you're not wearing a mask when you're doing your sport.
Yeah, which is, and I understand, for all you sports heads out there, I understand it. Yeah, it's probably very difficult to wear a mask while doing a sport, if not impossible to do so. I wouldn't say impossible, though. I'd just say very uncomfortable. And,
I know it's
Yeah.
not impossible, because on the Buzz, Ryan, we talked about
yeah,
back in I think it was like May or June, that like athletic companies were releasing masks that were specifically for wearing sports or doing
Oh,
high
wow.
contact,
yeah.
like
And
where you're
Yeah.
sweating and things like that.
I
Mhm.
also shared, well, I didn't share the video, but I believe I tagged it somewhere. Some dude on YouTube uploaded a video of him smoking like 3 cigarettes, wearing 5 masks, and
What?
then running a mile to prove that it doesn't inhibit breathing, which I thought was hilarious. But
Important to note, as
yeah,
well
but
as that we got some more info on this story, is the ban on youth indoor sports and high school sports will begin Friday at 6 a.m. and will
Mhm.
last until January 2nd. So that's going to be something that's kind of not official yet. It's going to be this week. And the order does not affect college or professional sports at this time, but I guess anything's possible in the
yeah,
future, the incoming year.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
it,
Jacob, you have any thoughts on this at all?
I think it definitely makes sense. I know, like, sports events, like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I feel like when I think of like large gatherings that I've personally witnessed in like the age of the coronavirus, sports has been like, especially like little league and like, high school sports, that's been a big one. And it's definitely something you see and you're like, ugh, I'm not sure if this is supposed to
yeah,
be happening.
exactly. And I think part of the big problem that we're having
Mhm.
is it's not just the kids
Mhm.
that are doing the sports. For a lot of families, especially when the kids are in high school, sports are like a family thing.
Oh,
You
definitely.
have the classic, soccer mom Karen
Mhm.
stereotype, but that stereotype is, all
Yeah.
stereotypes have some form of weird, twisted strain of truth behind them. That's where
Mhm.
stereotypes come from. And that's where, the whole soccer mom stereotype comes from is, you know, there are actual soccer moms, there are
Yeah.
actual football
People love
moms.
that stuff.
Exactly. People love that stuff. So, that's one big problem I think we've been seeing is a lot of these sports that are going on is it's not just the kids gathering and, you know, playing these contact sports, to get kind of
Mhm.
gross. It's like when you play a contact sport, you're sweating, you're all over each other, whatever. It
Yeah.
just happens, you know. But it's not just that. It's also the parents that come and pick them up and interact with
Oh
the other
yeah,
parents afterwards.
for sure. And it's also, you got to remember, you're in like locker rooms and you're on top of each
Mm.
other, and you're like, it's like kind of the best scenario to get it in a sense. And if you really think about it, like as much as you're still outside for most sports, you're still like, I don't know,
Yeah, I
doesn't mean
mean,
you can't they'll
exactly.
get
I
to
think a
you.
common misconception a lot of people are having is when you're outside, you don't have to wear a mask, or when you're
Mhm.
outside, oh, it's like fresh air and there's wind. I don't,
Yeah.
it's fine. I don't need to socially distance as much because I'm outside. That's not true.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, I remember.
proven that you
Yeah.
need to, it's still, even if you're outside, you should still be practicing, the 6 feet.
Mhm.
You should still be wearing a mask if you're around people. If you're around nobody, I mean, look, I'll be the first to admit, when I walk to the building on campus from the parking garage, campus is dead empty. There's like
Mm.
maybe one guy a mile away from me.
Mhm.
So I'll let my mask down to drink my coffee and get like a breath of fresh air before I go into any buildings. The second I get like to any buildings, I put my mask on. But if
Mhm.
there's anybody around me, or people start like walking around, yeah, I put my mask on,
Yeah.
because there are other people nearby, and that's what you're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing. So it's kind of the same thing with sports, even though you're outside. Now, just a reminder, I believe this only limits indoor sports.
Yeah, I think that's what it said.
Yeah, so this only limits indoor sports. Now, I personally think, and this is just my opinion here at the station, the opinions of the hosts do
Mhm.
not reflect that of the station. If you want to angry tweet me, I'm at Ryan the Trick on Twitter. In my opinion, I feel like he should have banned indoor and out. I think he should have just like
Yeah,
shut
I don't
down all
know.
I
high
mean, but
school
I guess
sports.
and if you really look at it, fall's almost over. We're going into
Yeah,
winter.
I guess that's
Nobody's
true.
really doing outdoor sports anymore. Football season's almost over. So like for high
Yeah,
schools anyway.
that's a good point.
Football's almost over. Baseball doesn't happen again until the spring. So like I mean, it's mostly basketball, hockey, all stuff that is indoors is coming soon or is starting now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't even think it like I understand, yeah, he should have done that as well, but also at the same
Mhm.
time, like there's not really that much outdoor sports anymore. So
Yeah, I guess other than maybe winter sports coming up, but I don't know.
Yeah, and
I
I
guess you wear a
guess,
mask for that anyway.
no, and the thing
yeah,
is, he said this lasts till at least January 2nd. So obviously, you could always extend that and stuff. But
Oh
January
yeah,
2nd, that's the height of like hockey season. That's the height of
yeah, that's true.
basketball season for high schools and stuff. Not baseball, like I said. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
yeah.
So another thing that came out yesterday, to kind of transition, like I said, this story is kind of like, it goes along with the first story we actually had
Mhm.
written for today. So just yesterday, Murphy said that a statewide shutdown, kind of quote, has to stay on the table,
Mhm.
end quote, as NJ COVID-19 cases are surging. We are seeing a huge surge in cases recently. I believe NJ's 7-day average of new cases as of yesterday was 4,070. That's a 7-day
Mhm.
average of new cases, 4,070 per week, which is up five, almost or a little above a 5.5% from a week ago, and 176% up from a month ago, which is crazy.
So obviously, I think that's because everybody kind of got a little more loose
Yeah.
Mm.
with the
Yeah.
restrictions and stuff, but also because now we're moving everything indoors. Not everything can be outside anymore because it's becoming winter. I mean, we had some really nice fall days, and we probably still have a few more days that will still come, and it will feel like beautiful out. But
Mm.
the majority of days are like 40 degrees now, 50 degrees, and it's cold out. And
Yeah.
nobody wants to sit outside and eat dinner outside in 30, 40-degree weather. I don't know about you. When the first snow comes, I'm not sitting
Yeah.
at a restaurant like, here we
Yeah.
go, I'm gonna get my snow jacket on and my snow boots just to eat outside. Like, no,
Get
it's
a
not
hot
gonna happen.
chocolate.
So like
Yeah.
for me and my mom and being home, like I then just get food, bring it home, or I like
Mm.
we're keeping more to like our closer circle more than ever now because you don't want to be at these big gatherings, but some people don't care. And now we just saw the holidays. Like we had Thanksgiving. A lot of
Yeah.
people didn't care. And they
Yeah.
still did with their big gatherings and they still had their big parties or whatever the case
We
may
saw a
be.
lot of people on social media posting and a lot of, talk about people having these big gatherings. And that was a big problem that we've seen over Thanksgiving. It's one of the reasons cases are spiking.
Oh, definitely.
They've been spiking over the past month, but certainly yesterday didn't help. Or not yesterday, a few days ago,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving didn't help. Obviously, people were traveling
I
too.
mean,
a lot of college
not
kids
gonna-
coming home.
Yeah, that too.
Oh, that must be a big one.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to call anybody out, but I worked on Thanksgiving and I saw people get meals for at least 18 people and stuff. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but I saw it and it happened. And
Yeah.
it's happening in the state of
Yeah.
New Jersey. So it's just like, be safe. Keep your, like, I know I don't know about what you're doing, Jacob or Ryan, but I'm keeping it to more of like my smaller circle of people and just really trying to like avoid getting this at all costs.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't want to, I don't know.
It doesn't seem fun, and I don't know. It's
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
very scary prospect.
And I think it's hit me more. Like, I mean, it's always been scary for me, to say the least, but it's been hitting me more because I'm seeing more of the people in my feed and that I'm friends with get exposed or get the virus in some sense, and has me worried.
Yeah,
Has me
no, I
very
can
worried.
definitely see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another kind of little factoid, I guess.
Okay.
So prior
Mess
to
with the facts today, Ryan.
Yeah. So prior to Sunday, the number of new cases had actually risen above 4,000 for 10 of the past 14 days. Prior to Saturday. And this is along with Saturday's slight drop in cases. The rate of transmission of the virus went down from 1.18 on Friday to 1.16. However, the number of people hospitalized increased.
Huh.
So we are seeing, so to kind of give people to kind of help people wrap their heads around this, even though transmission might slightly be dropping, that doesn't necessarily mean that cases aren't rising. That said, we are seeing testing is becoming more and more common, more widely available. Some of the tests are still fairly expensive. I believe the rapid test at some places, my dad told me, is something like $200 at some places, but that's the rapid test if you want the result right then. That said, more people are getting tested. So even though transmission is going down, that's why we might be seeing these cases going up. But I still don't think that the whole Thanksgiving gathering thing really helped the whole situation.
No, for sure. I mean, because when we were in that July, August, September kind of time period, we had we had 4th of July in July, but other than that, we had no other big holidays or anything. And also, like I said, everything was outside. So the fact that people can kind of sit on like somebody's deck or go to the beach and still kind of keep their distance from people kind of helped. But now since we're going inside and people are like, I don't want to be alone. And it's like, I get that. I feel that. I completely get that. But kind of limit who you're with. I know a lot of my friends came home from college that were like upstate New York and upstate just in general, or maybe not living in this state, and they kind of stayed with like 3 or 4 people during the whole time at school, like so that they weren't lonely, but they weren't like in these giant gatherings going to parties or anything. They had their group of people that they like stuck with, and they just hoped that they didn't get the virus.
Yeah. And speaking of fun gatherings,
oh no.
So we're talking about New Jersey right now, but it isn't just New Jersey. And I guess to wrap the whole New Jersey thing in a sentence, if you don't want the state to shut down, that is entirely up to you. And
for sure.
This goes for all New Jersey residents who are listening. This goes not just for New Jersey residents who are listening. This goes for anybody's state who's listening. It is up to you to, spread the word on social media. A lot of people think, oh, I shouldn't be telling my friends, to wear a mask. It's like, no, it's not bad. It's not something to look down upon. In fact, personally, I give major props to people who go on social media and say, hey, people, wear your mask, socially distance, serious props.
Also, just a reminder too, because it was touched on in this article, just because the the vaccine is getting closer and closer doesn't mean we should kind of stop yet, because we don't know when that vaccine is going to come out. and widespread availability
Yeah.
with that vaccine. I keep saying virus with that vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. So just a reminder, if you don't want the state to shut down, that is almost entirely up to you. That said, so we're talking about New Jersey. New York, specifically Manhattan, they had a bit of an incident, in case you didn't hear this from the New York Times. A party with 400 people was shut down in Manhattan.
Man,
Yeah.
that is a very large number.
Yeah, so
Saturday, maybe a very big Friendsgiving.
Yeah.
Oh,
like to
yikes.
see that table.
Right.
Oh, yikes. So, like I said, this is from the New York Times. So deputies actually arrived at the building in Midtown Manhattan just before 3 a.m. on Saturday and found almost 400 people drinking and partying inside. And yes, of course, very few were actually wearing face masks. Deputies shut the party down, arrested 4 people. The episode basically reflected the way that despite the onset of a second wave of COVID that we've been seeing, I thought it was a third wave. I don't know the waves anymore. Despite the waves of COVID that we've been seeing, people, like I said, are still gathering at these large events in New York. It's now again, we are seeing a lot of them happen in New York. It's not just New York. It's everywhere. There are stupid people everywhere. Sorry. Hate to break it to you, listeners. There are dumb people everywhere. We just with this instance saw about 400 really dumb people in New York. It's I don't know what else to say about these things. So just don't be stupid. The 7-day average test positivity rate, by the way, in New York was 3.9%. De Blasio said on Sunday that it was up from less than 2% at the beginning of the month. About 720 people were hospitalized in the last 7 days. And while the average for the last 4 weeks was 555.
So I had to bring up some other article as well, because last week, because the story kind of sounded familiar to me when we found this. Last week on the Tuesday Buzz, if you keep up on all days of the Buzz, which we do run Monday through Friday, 8 to 9. That was a plug. Philippe and Tara talked about last week how there was a rumble in the Bronx where there was actually no social distancing either. And it was about 200 people. So this has kind of been a common thing in New York City right now about how people are not social distancing and things. And come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, and I've said this 100 times on the Buzz. For those of you who don't know, who don't live in New Jersey or New York, who don't live or haven't been to the Northeast, we live on top of each other in the tri-state. I mean, literally, we are packed. And if you've ever been to New York, you know that just from walking down the street. It is always packed. So it's like, yeah, I get it. There's a lot of people in New York. That isn't however, that isn't an excuse to have these huge parties.
It's all the more reason not to.
It blows my mind. Like, I find it more believable that people are trying to, push the limit. They're like, oh, indoor gatherings, only this many. Let me get just to that amount or just over the amount. That I find way more believable than people I can't even comprehend somebody's train of thought going, hey, why don't I have a party with 400 people?
Wow.
400 of your closest friends.
I can't even fit 40 people in my house, much less 400.
How do you go about organizing that in this era, right? How did COVID just not even cross their mind?
Page, Jacob, get it right.
Yeah, it's a Facebook event page. Probably.
I guess that'll do it. I guess that'll do the job. But I don't know. Did you not think about it? I don't know. I want to know what the thought process was.
I would love to have, if anybody knows of anybody who went to that party. Please tweet us at WMSC using the hashtag WMSC Buzz on Twitter.
You don't even need to know.
Let us know so that we can bring them on, interview them, and just say, hey, what were you thinking?
Well,
Like, walk us through that
But
thought process of planning that party.
Ryan, you don't even need to have someone from that party because you could just look at other colleges and stuff that are still trying to have parties. No, I'm being serious. I saw last week the New York Times released a map of all the colleges in the United States, and it shows where
Ooh.
outbreaks and stuff are. And the worst one in this state is Rowan University, and it has like, I don't want to get the number wrong. I think it was like 600 or 700 cases just at
let's see if
Rowan.
I
That was
could-
in this state.
A lot of the
Good
dots,
thing,
a lot of the hot spots on that map too are like known party colleges.
Yeah, like Ohio and like one of the schools in Florida. That's a big university. Like it was like it made sense because there's like, okay, there's a lot of people there, so there's cases. But then like you see a school like Rowan, and I'm like,
who's surprised?
No, because it's like people are having parties. I know people there. I see people like still having parties, still gathering with like at least 30, 40 people, and it might not be 400 people, but it's still enough to
good
spread.
amount.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it hurts as a college student because there's so many of these other college students having these big parties. It really does hurt to be in college and basically have this. It's almost like a stigma at this point where people, especially a lot of people in the news, I mean, heck, we're reporting on it, where it's like college students are some of the people who are spreading this thing like a wildfire. And it's like, it really just, it's not great. It's words I don't want to say on air.
Or you can't say on air.
I can't say on air. Like, that's how I feel about it because we're in college and not a lot of us, especially here at the station, especially here at Montclair, not a lot of us are going out and having these huge parties and stuff. You know, Montclair isn't a known party school. But, you know, just being in college, it's a lot of the news is kind of gesturing to college students saying, hey, look at these kids, they're spreading COVID. And obviously it's not just us. A lot of these people were young adults. People, I mean, like, I don't know anybody in college who can afford a, you know, apartment or whatever big enough to host 400 people in New York, especially, you know, Manhattan, nonetheless.
I think what upsets me the most about this situation, and you guys could comment if you agree, but it makes me upset because like I feel that I'm doing a lot to like not get myself sick or anything, and I'm like I said, I'm keeping to like a smaller group of people, like my little bubble in a sense. And then I see these people online going out and hanging out with 40, 50 people, and it makes me like I'm like I know I don't have like 40 people I'm just gonna call up and go hang out with, but I feel because I know I want to do theater again, and I want to do all these other things again, go on a film set without having to worry, or just go out to a restaurant and not have to worry. And then I see these people and it makes me upset because I'm like, I'm trying to do the best that I can to not get this virus. And it's just almost not fair in a sense, if that makes any sense. I know this life's not fair. This virus isn't fair, but like, I don't know. Do you guys feel that in a sense that you want to be able to like feel like you can go out and be safe, but you know, like it's still like a risky situation. And then you see people online going out and doing what you want to do and you can't do it.
Yeah, it very much is a, you know, obviously you put it the best way. It's like, listen, life isn't fair. I've been telling people that all this pandemic because they're like, well, it's not fair. I want to do this. I want to do that. Too bad.
Like,
you know,
sorry.
That's the world we live in right now. But I think you're right, Amanda. I think one of the worst parts about this thing, and, you know, back again, especially as a college student, is it's like some of my best times in college, you know, I'm a huge freaking nerd. You know, anybody who knows me knows this. I play D&D like at least 3 times a week, you know, and one of my favorite parts about college was gathering in a room with just a, you know, bunch of my friends and playing D&D just in a room, just nerd stuff, you know? But it's like, and I'm seeing all these people going out, having these parties. And it's like, listen, I understand you want that. You want to go out. You want to have these parties. I fully 100% understand how you feel. You are not, but these people need to understand, like, you're not the only ones going through this. And people having these parties, just like I said in the last story, you are the reason that, you know, the governors are having to come out and say, like, listen, we might have to go back and shut down the state. Yeah. And then they're also this is the worst part about this whole situation is they're also the people complaining about it. They're like, oh, I don't want the state to shut down. And I'm like, then stop gathering.
Yeah, and
wear your mask. Order, like, takeout. It's not hard. There's Chinese places all over New York. Just grab some chow mein or something and don't go out. PSA from Ryan Trick. Stay home. Netflix exists.
Ryan's like crying over
I'm
there. He's like
losing
crying
it.
it out.
I'm losing it.
Shouting
man.
to the rooftops.
Yeah.
I'm losing it. It's not that hard. That's all I'm gonna say to
No,
end this.
I agree. I think you're right. And like I said, like I know there's a lot more bigger problems kind of going on in the world, but it's like it's just selfish. It really is, because you're doing everything you can, and like I'm willing to sacrifice, going out with friends and doing all that stuff just to be able to say I'm safe, I'm healthy, I'm keeping my family and friends safe, all that. And then you see that, and it's so upsetting. And I'm going to end it there, but it's upsetting and it's selfish.
It is
sure.
upsetting. It is selfish.
But I think before we take a break, I did want to touch on this other New York story that we have.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
we were on a roll talking about New York.
Yeah. So speaking of New York, almost made a joke there. Speaking of New York, so this is kind of amidst a lot of these like cases kind of rising. Now, again, there's a case to be made that a lot of these cases are rising because more and more people are getting tested. Testing is becoming more common. So we're finding out more people have it than we initially thought. There is a case to be made about that. Either way, New York is actually going to reopen elementary schools and begin reducing hybrid learning. De Blasio announced an abrupt shift in managing schools during this pandemic. Now, I believe he announced this yesterday that he would reopen public elementary schools. Not only that, but he said that middle and high schools would remain closed, but also signaled that he would overhaul how the city manages the school system during the pandemic. A huge part of this pandemic is like we've seen schools hit seriously, like really badly. One of the main stories that have come out recently was a study done, I forget by who, somebody can angry tweet, fact check me on it, whatever. At Ryan the Trick on Twitter, hashtag Morning Buzz at WMSC, whatever. Amanda's sighing, whatever. Point being, a study did come out saying, like, especially for littler kids, there's been a huge impact on how kids are learning and the effectiveness of learning at home. The study showed that like reading levels dropped on average. Kids' math ability has dropped, and it's because, and I've said this before, and this is not slamming parents. I just want to point out, I have so much respect for all the parents who are currently juggling being at home and trying to teach a kid. Like, having to work from home and trying to teach a kid is a lot. Mad respect for the parents who are out there doing it. Shout out to our station general manager, Annabella Poland, like awesome, person. She's out there doing this. Parents are not meant to be, like school teachers unless that's your profession. Being a school teacher is hard. There's that joke, I think I made this like last week, the joke on in Incredibles, where the parent is, or where is it, Mr. Incredible is like, when did they change math? Like, that's a joke based in reality. I remember talking to my dad about that in high school. My dad was like, what are you working on? I'm like, I don't know. Can you help me with it? And he looked at it. He's like, what the heck is this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm asking you. It's
no, asking dads for math is a bad idea.
It's hard, right? Because
for sure.
Listen, it's not easy stuff to remember. So I think that is the main reason he's reopening elementary schools. We are seeing a lot of these kids, really start falling behind on like these basic reading skills, on these basic math skills
Also,
that they need to know going into middle and high school.
Elementary school kids are also, that's their time that they socialize. They can't they don't really, I mean, now's a different time, but when I was in elementary school, I didn't have a cell phone where I can go like call somebody and be like, hey, let's talk, let's hang out, like, because they're too young, or hopefully most of them are too young to have a
Well,
cell phone.
no.
But anyway, the point being, that's like kind of their time to socialize. They can't just get in a car and like drive and like whatever. They can't really do anything like that.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
not.
like their
Yeah.
chance to socialize, and if you kind of mess up that socialization at that age, it could kind of affect them for the long term.
Mhm.
So like I understand in a sense. The one thing I will say about with the schools being opening and closing, it's like constantly every other week it's like they're open, they're closed, they're open, they're closed. Like pick something. Like
Yeah.
it's either they're staying open or they're closed. Personally, I think you should just leave it closed now until after the holidays, because now we're going to see a spike and that's just going to cause problems. Each school is going to close down for like a week or two because we're seeing that already. I feel that like you should just wait till after the holidays. If you want to start again in January, go for it. But
Yeah.
like,
So
I don't know.
now something crazy too, and I always forget this, but every time I'm reminded of it, it makes perfect sense to me. So like we said, we in the tri-state literally live on top of each other. New York especially. The New York City School District is actually the largest in the country,
Mhm.
with 1.1 million children in one school district.
Oh man.
Yeah. It blows my mind every time I read that. And I've been reminded that like several times during this pandemic, and I keep forgetting it. Whatever, I don't live in New York. But it's insane. So, but now the catch for this is it's not like mandatory for all kids to return. Students can return only if they have already signed up for in-person learning, because they're elementary kids. That means the parents obviously have to sign off on it too, which means just about 190,000 children in the grades and schools the city is reopening next week are going to be eligible. Now, about 335,000 students in total have chosen in-person classes. Children in pre-K and elementary school can return starting December 7th. And, de Blasio did say, quote, on the whole situation, he says, quote, whatever happens ahead, we want this to be the plan going forward. We know what we didn't know over the summer. We know what works from actual experience, end quote. And, that's something also we've touched on over the course of this pandemic, over reporting it. As terrible as it sounds, when schools started back up, and I remember talking about this over the summer, we were talking about like schools are going to start back up.
Mhm.
I remember saying, as terrible as it sounds, schools starting back up and schools reopening is the best social experiment that you can have during a pandemic. It sounds awful, but if you look at it objectively, de Blasio nailed it. He said, we know from experience what works and what doesn't.
It's true.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It is definitely like a social experiment, but like, I wish it wasn't like every other week we're changing our mind, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense. Like,
that's
I
definitely
understand
true.
like situations change and that's fine too, but I think like it should be like you're gonna close the schools down. All right, cool, close the schools down. Don't like try to change it a week later, because it's affecting everybody else around it too. Teachers trying to get lessons plans together. It's affecting parents when they're like, I have to get somebody to watch my kid, or if they have to go to work or whatever the case may be. And it's too messy. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And kind of on the stem of schools maybe not keeping their plans straight, kind of pulling it back a little closer to home here at Montclair State University, we actually recently found out that next semester, this is for all of you campus kids who don't check your email and all the parents who kids didn't tell about this yet. So next semester, Montclair is actually, I believe, canceling spring break,
Yes.
and they are pushing the start of next semester back by like 2 weeks.
February 8th, we're going to restart.
Yeah. So there's like a full-blown 2 months of winter break now. No spring break. What do you guys think about this? So I'm not going to be here next semester, hopefully.
You're not going to be here. You're graduating.
I'm not.
Goodbye.
Yeah, I'm graduating. So I'm not going to be here next semester, but if I don't know how I feel about this.
Personally, it's like I have mixed feelings about it. As much as I'm like, cool, 2 months off, that's cool. I also am cool with the fact that we don't have spring break because honestly, I never do anything on spring break either. It's usually like I work, I get a few days off, that's cool. And like I don't usually go anywhere. Right now, nobody should be going anywhere on
Yeah.
spring break because we're in the middle of a pandemic. But
Yeah.
I also know because I'm graduating next year, I'm graduating in May, that now that pushed our graduation back. And now that
Oh,
pushes
shoot.
time back for when I will be doing like looking for a job and stuff. Like when I have to like go out there into the work field and things like that. And it's gonna take some time. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, like, and that's rough for me because I can't like just say May 15th I'm done. Like, I now have to wait till like June, which is not the best situation. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. This whole situation. It's not great. I mean, personally, I understand where the change is coming from. It's not to say like whether or not I agree with it. I understand where the change is coming from, but I do think, part of, I don't want to say part of the problem, part of, but I guess for lack of a better word, part of the problem is, like we said, a lot of college students, like, listen, we're not, I'll represent us here for a second. A lot of us aren't being safe, plain and simple. A lot of us are. We're trying. We at WMSC, by the way, have loads of COVID guidelines. I could read you a list of the guidelines just for in studio.
Loads of guidelines, and most people can't even come to the station.
Exactly. So, we have loads of guidelines in place, but a lot of college students aren't being safe. So the reason, or I think part of the reasoning for Montclair's choice in doing this, we are seeing, obviously we have words of, I believe right now, 3 vaccine candidates, one from Pfizer, one from Moderna, and one coming out of Oxford from AstraZeneca, all 90% or above efficacy, which is, by the way, crazy high compared to like the flu vaccine. A lot of people don't realize the flu vaccine is only, I think, on average 67% effective. So the fact that we're having COVID vaccines come out that are like, hey, this is 90 to 95% effective, that's awesome. But we are seeing these vaccine candidates starting to be estimated to come out in the spring, which is why I think they're trying to push back the start of the semester again, is because we want to get as close to that vaccine when we start school up as possible.
And also get over the winter surge. But Ryan, I had some breaking news that I needed to throw in real fast about one of the vaccines. Moderna actually applied this morning, or maybe the weekend, applied for an emergency FDA approval for the coronavirus vaccine. So that means they're just waiting for the approval, and then they could start administrating it as needed for emergency reasons. So
yes,
which is a great thing.
It is great. Now, I do want to remind everybody, the first vaccines are obviously going to go out to, and very much well-deserved, first responders.
Before you even say that, is Moderna is going to saying emergency. So this is talking like people probably like that are like that need the vaccine. Like, not even, it might not even go to all essential workers yet. It's going to probably.
No. We're talking like ICU workers.
Yeah.
We're literally talking people who have been dealing with this, wearing the crazy double masks, like for 18-hour shifts. Full body suits, scrubbing their hands until they crack. As bad as that sounds, like, listen, that's how hard our first responders are working. So they're probably gonna, or not probably, they're definitely gonna get it first. Then it's gonna go out to like just hospitals in general, first responders in general. And it's not gonna hit full-blown public for a little while.
Probably April.
Yeah, it's estimating the spring, probably around I believe May or April, like you said. So again, that's just little throwing that out there for everybody. Just a reminder: stay safe, please. It's not that. It's actually, believe it or not, it's not that hard.
It's true. And with that, we're gonna take a short break. And we're going to come back with some fun news.
Yeah, we got some fun stuff coming up. A little bit of a teaser. We're talking, I believe, cats in the White House. What? And some cool photos of hockey not in a rink. Stay tuned.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Every day, across this country, hundreds of college radio stations take to the air, broadcasting music and programming that you won't hear anywhere else.
It's one of the last places where people can really be able to actually say what they want to say.
Without it, you wouldn't have a place for local artists to perform. Certain people need to have a chance, a fighting chance, and college radio is that place for it.
College radio changes the lives of those who are involved with it and can change those who listen to it too.
This is where we start out, from getting all this great experience working in college radio. It makes you want to work in real radio.
College radio means finding yourself. It helped me find what I wanted to do in not only school, but in life.
So support college radio by continuing to listen to this station and supporting the students who make it happen. College radio, now, more than ever. A message brought to you by this station and the College Radio Foundation. For more information, please visit collegeradio.org.
WMSC would like to welcome students new and old to MSU. We are pointing out some of the services and rules on campus to help everyone endure the first weeks of college. Montclair State knows that college isn't exactly the easiest time on someone's mind. To help, the university has CAPS, counseling and psychological services, to help you adapt to your college life and stay healthy. CAPS is committed to ensuring that every student is able to work through any problems that may arise, whether emotional or psychological, and they can refer to other professional help if needed. CAPS is 100% free and will never turn someone away. For more information, go to montclair.edu/counseling and psychological services.
Hey, you're listening to 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, where music stays cool. Cooler than a dog on a skateboard. Okay, I take that back, but we're still pretty cool.
And we are back here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, New Jersey with the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz. We got some fun news. I know we had a little more hard news in the beginning of the show, but we got some fun news for everybody.
Yeah, we got some cool stuff, fun stuff going for you. I'm going to share my screen for everybody watching on Facebook or watching in the future. Hello, future people on YouTube. So this next one is pretty cool. It's about, I don't know how to describe this other than just like a really clever way for to kind of get outside and do things. So a lot of famous, or a couple, not a lot, but a couple famous figure skaters and hockey players actually went out into like, I don't know where on earth they are, to like a frozen lake in the mountains.
The mountains of Vancouver.
The mountains of Vancouver, thank you. To perform, or not perform, practice hockey, kind of ice skate, figure skate, do all these really cool things. This is thanks to the New York Times. And like I said, you can always check us out on Facebook Live at the moment, or if you're watching the recorded version of this, not live, on YouTube or afterwards on Facebook, you can see these images. It is just cool. There's not much I can say about this other than, one, I'm a sucker for really good photography, and there's some like dang good photography here. It's
sure.
true.
The Times does a great job.
And it's funny to see these, pro hockey players going out and just doing, they're literally using like one of those nets you would buy at like Target or
No,
something.
yeah,
And
it's
it's just fun, you know?
it's super fun because like they're just like they know they probably really shouldn't go inside because of all of this right now with like COVID and stuff. So I mean, like again, we went over this earlier. It doesn't mean if you're outside, it's not just because you're outside doesn't mean you're protecting yourself still.
Mhm.
But in this case, I think it's fun. I think it's that they wanted to get out there, still be active, still work on their craft, their profession in that way, and they just went outside in the cold and we're just like, let's do this, let's have fun.
Yeah, and they just did it, and it was pretty cool. So some of the famous people who were out there, um, so a Canadian figure skater, Elizabeth Putnam, and her husband Chan. His name is escaping me, and her husband Chan something. They were the first to arrive at the place just after like 7 a.m, and they immediately started skating. And these people were skating like all day. Chan jokingly said, "quote My triple axel days are long gone." He retired back in 2018 after winning gold in the team event in South Korea. But there are some cool like little video clips, slow motion video clips of him doing like these really kind of just fun tricks and stuff on the ice. And it's like, I mean, it is majestic. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than it is just straight majestic. Seeing
and
someone who's as good at what they do, like this, like professional level, beautiful, elegant ice skater doing this in like one of the most cinematic, picturesque locations. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it just shows that like we look at like the littler things in life, I guess, now during these times, especially like so the fact that we could just go outside and just like kind of hang out. We don't need a giant ice rink in like an arena to do what we like, you know what I mean? Like, and so that's what I got out of that, and I thought it was just like a fun little story to like mention on the buzz today.
Yeah,
Especially get our sports story in there because we don't talk about sports too much besides our sports cast.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
You're a little dose of sports today.
for all you hockey fans out there, so 10 hockey players, including and I'm gonna butcher these names, so whatever. Angry tweet me at Ryan the Trick on Twitter. Elias Patterson, Thatcher Demko, Alexander Edler, and Zach McEwen of the Canucks, Troy Stetcher of the Red Wings, and free agent Jason Garrison. They arrived on the mountain at about 11 a.m. And they were literally just out there. They got together and they just started playing hockey. Little red team versus blue team with
Very
some
casual.
jerseys. Very just casual hockey to practice their craft. And it's just clever, I think. We've seen a lot of people just become really innovative, I guess. We've seen it especially in the sports world. A lot of these sports people, even though a couple of them still get COVID, a lot of them are living in a bubble, so they can play sports without without risk of getting COVID.
I mean, because you don't want to be that person that gives it either.
Exactly.
You don't want to be that person.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing you want to do is be known in your like professional career as, hey, he was the guy who shut down the entire, insert sports team here because he got COVID. So anyways, it's fairly interesting and really just beautiful. Like I said, thank you to the New York Times for providing us with this story. But some kind of fun stuff.
I'm so excited about this story.
Amanda is very excited about this story. Take it away.
Sure. So, as we all know, President-elect Joe Biden, will be entering the White House starting in January. And some, like, a fact that people know, but, like, not everybody knows is pets are very big in the White House. It's something like it's an age-old tradition. I think Donald Trump and one other president were the only ones that never had pets in the White House. And it was announced back in the fall that Biden had two dogs named Champ and Major. And we also talked about he sprained his ankle this weekend because of Champ.
Yeah.
They would be entering the White House, and it's really fun because they're also, I believe it was Major that was actually a rescue. So he was a rescue. So that was
Oh,
like a big
wow.
thing. Yeah, he got him a few years ago. But on Sunday, it was announced that a cat may enter the White House. And I know this doesn't seem like it's breaking news, but hey, it was on the New York Times, and I think this is super fun.
I don't know. I think that's great.
So it's been like over a decade since there was a cat in the White House.
Oh,
and
wow.
Amanda's a cat person.
I am a cat. I love dogs too. But
Who is the
cats
last
are
president
awesome.
to have a cat?
I believe it was. No, I don't want to get this wrong because Clinton
The
had a
last
cat.
person to have a cat was President George W. Bush.
Okay, that's what I thought because I didn't think Clinton was the last one. I thought there was somebody else in between. But yeah, so this is so exciting, and I know people were really excited just overall because it would be restoring the tradition because we didn't have a pet in the White House. And I know it seems so random, like to have one, but it's so fun and it gives you more of like a sense of who that person is, in a sense that they care about animals and that they are about, like, especially with this, we're rescuing animals, things like that. So I think that's really something to be happy and excited about. I don't know. I like animals.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, and it's cool and it's fun because we've seen also like throughout history there have been some weird animals, weird pets in the White House. Cat, if you're not a cat person or a dog person or a hamster person, I don't know. Like I don't get it. Maybe you like fish, whatever. You have an aquarium. I don't get it. I'm a dog person. I like all animals, but I'm a dog / sometimes cat person. There have been some like weird out there. I think there was like an alligator.
Yeah, I'm looking up which one it was.
A pet alligator once in the White House. I don't even know where you get. I guess if you're the president, you can get anything or almost anything. But I don't even know like publicly where you get a pet alligator.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of weird people who have. Okay, I'll be inclusive, not weird people, but there's a lot of people who have like very, I will say, non-traditional emotional support animals. I believe there was a story I reported on like a long time ago. Some woman, I think it was on a United flight, had like an emotional support like ostrich. I don't even know. It blows my mind.
Okay.
Where do you even buy an ostrich? Anyways,
I have the proof about the alligator, by the way. Marquis de Lafayette, so if you guys are Hamilton fans, that's he was in Hamilton, visited the White House, and he had an unusual gift for the then president John Quincy Adams, which was an alligator. Adams decided to lodge the reptile in the then unfinished East Room of the White House, which had its own bathtub. According to the White House legend, he would freak out unsuspecting visitors on tours of the residence by showing them into the room with the alligator.
I love that.
That's bizarre.
This was, of course, Business Insider gave me that little fact about the alligator, and there actually is a few other things. It's a whole article basically about random pets' names and odd animals that were there to begin with. There was a parrot called Pole. 2 tiger cubs.
That's awesome. I would love a tiger cub.
Sheep.
Oh, sheep.
A pet raccoon called Rebecca.
I love that. I'm all about the pet raccoon.
And there was a pony.
All right.
So it's exciting. It's exciting. Basically, the least to say of that is it's exciting to see there's a cat. It's exciting to see the Bidens are very welcoming of animals in the White House under this presidency. So it's just a little exciting. I don't know. It's nothing more than exciting and fun, you know. It's definitely a great way to end the show today, too, especially.
And anyone who, for I don't know, I don't want to say older listeners, but like anyone who was around during the Clinton presidency probably knows. Actually, one of the most popular cats in the White House was Socks in the Clinton White House. He was a black and white cat, and they were actually. I believe named after an unreleased Super Nintendo game, Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill or something.
Really?
Or like there was a game like that was unreleased based on the cat. It's really weird.
They said Socks is probably the most he's the
He-
most known presidential pet. And
Yeah.
it's funny because his article actually has a picture of Socks at the top of it, and it's like Socks sitting on top of the briefing
Yeah,
podium.
like the presidential like White House
Podium.
briefing podium, and the cat is just sitting there like
just
vibing.
chilling. It's gonna give our a daily briefing.
It's
Right?
gonna give the daily briefing, exactly.
Love
But
that.
some fun, lighthearted stuff.
Here
Whether
at
you're
90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey, of course, because we got to get that top of the hour in there.
exactly. So whether you're a cat or a dog person, just some fun news to end the show with. We hope you have a wonderful day. To all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of The Morning Buzz.
We'll be back tomorrow, 8 to 9, with Tara and Philippe, and throughout the rest of the week. And I've been Amanda Marino.
As always, I've been Ryan Trick.
I've been Jake Getz.
Awesome. Have a great day. Stay safe. Wear a mask. Have a great day.